Agov released last week, and with it, the highly anticipated Link 2 SP Little Knight. I've been hearing a lot of people in the community, whether that's on Twitter or in person, talk about how strong of a card it is, and how that it's a card that they think should be banned at some point. But I wanted to make a video sharing kind of the opposite viewpoint because I actually think it's an extremely well-designed card that's honestly really good for the game. Hopefully I don't end up eating these words at some point, but for now I'm just going to give my arguments for why I like Little Knight so much, and then you guys can let me know what you think in the comments. My main argument is that Little Knight helps with solving a really big problem in Yu-Gi-Oh, which is that going first is a huge advantage over going second. Of course, SP does have many applications when going first because of its ability to tag out, so I'm going to go over some of those, but SP is a card that's much better going second than going first. When going first, it can help you dodge cards like Imperm and Veiler, it can be used to dodge Nib. It's great for saving your board against cards like Evenly since you can tag out two of your monsters and they come back in the end phase to help you with the crack pack. If you only control two monsters, it can be used to dodge Talent's effect to take, and against Thrust, you can chain it so that you don't control any monsters and force them to have to set instead of being able to add the card to their hand. It's also just another piece of monster removal that the opponent has to play through. So it's a really nice piece of an end board, but it's still something that can be baited out. Little Knight can only be activated in response to an opponent's effect, so there are a lot of situations where you can just go into the battle phase and attack over to deal with it. And it only has 1600 attack, so it's not that hard for a lot of decks to get over. This threat means that players often have to choose to either give up the interruption Little Knight provides, or shotgun it early to keep it around for a later turn. Of course, it's usually a bigger part of end board, so sometimes dealing with it isn't always straightforward, but I don't see it as this all-powerful interruption that makes or breaks any board or deck. It's also kind of hard for Link decks to combo and set up a Little Knight early. The card's arrows make it so you can't put her in the extra monster zone if you plan on Link summoning later in the turn. A deck like Vanadium, for example, can't make her early if they plan on going for a cross sheep line, so that means that they lose out on a lot of that protection that they theoretically would have during their combo if they could make her. So that's enough for going first, but what about when you use Little Knight going second? Well, I've already mentioned how Little Knight's a great toolbox card for helping break boards. Its effect on summon to banish a card is extremely powerful, and its ability to tag out makes it very hard to interact with when it does come out. It means that whenever you summon a Little Knight to out a problematic piece of an opponent's board, you can be almost certain that her effect will resolve, or at least bait out something else from your opponent, and in some cases even a third card. Little Knight on its own is able to deal with two pieces of interaction, and I think that's a good thing in a world where players are putting up the huge boards that they are. Again, I'm going to use Vanadium as an example, which can use a 1 or 2 card combo to end on like 7 or 8 interruptions, so why can't a card bait out 2 or 3 of those when I go second? Little Knight also promotes a more healthy back and forth type of gameplay, since the turn you use her effect to banish a card, you're unable to attack directly. That means that whenever you summon her going second, you're not going to be able to go for the kill, which means your opponent will have another chance to fight back, and now you have your own Little Knight as part of your end board to help you with the crackback. Little Knight's a great generic card for breaking boards, but also allows room for your opponent to have a chance to fight back, which is why I think Little Knight's such a well-designed card and a great addition to the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Of course, it's not all positives. There's one pressing issue that I think a card like Little Knight really sheds light on that I don't hear a lot of people in the community really talking about, and that's IP. IP on an end board means that players are able to take full advantage of both of the good effects of Little Knight without any of the drawbacks. Not being able to attack directly no longer matters, and you get both banished effects as part of your end board. A friend of mine was on the side of Little Knight being the problem and tried to compare it to Hulk, where Konami was banning all the tuners instead of dealing with the real issue. But if you ask me, I think my friend's example is right, but he has the wrong card in the spotlight. In my opinion, IP is the one that's more comparable to Hulk, since its existence alone limits the potential power that Link monsters are allowed to have, especially when it comes to their potential to help break boards. The thing with these going second Link monsters is that there's 3 ways to write their effects. They can either have ignition effects, quick effects, or on-summon trigger effects. Access Code is a great example of a Link monster that helps with going second that has an ignition effect. Sure, Access Code can't be used with IP effectively, but Access Code isn't really great at helping break boards. It's great for cleaning up in OTKs, but you really have to bait out all your opponent's interactions before Access Code can really be useful, and that's the problem with ignition effects in general. They're just too slow. That leaves only 2 other options. Printing them as quick effects is an issue because it means that they can now be abused going first and second equally since there's no restriction on them. That's why you don't see many Link monsters with quick effects. Finally, that leaves us with on-summon triggers like Little Knight's Banish or the Nightmares. This is the best way to balance these powerful removal type effects so that they can be great tools for going second without being abusable going first. But that means that if we go back to IP, a generic card like that can allow players to link summon on the opponent's turn means that we can now take advantage of those powerful links even when we go first, and that's a problem. IP is a card that has to always be in mind whenever a new strong Link monster is printed and really limits future card design. In my opinion, I think it's a card that should be and probably will be banned someday. But that's just my thoughts on it. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree with any of my points. Do you think Little Knight should be banned, or do you think it's healthy for the game like I do? Let me know what your thoughts on IP as well. I know that might be a bit of a hot take. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me. Anyways, that's all from me. I'll see you guys in the next one.